together, the souls?
नहीं,
Or
आप biologically भी देख सकते हो ना. Today, when a body, when a person dies, the bacteria is still there within that, right? That is the reason why the decomposition of the body happens, right? अगर बॉडी को हम लोग इमीडिएटली उसको क्रिमेट नहीं करते तो क्या होता है? The body starts decomposing, right? The bacteria inside starts eating the body, the germs become bigger and then the worms come out. So many things happen, right? So the bacteria still remains inside. अभी कोविड का एग्जांपल ले लो ना. कोविड जब हो गया था तो when a person died of covid, उसकी बॉडी कैसे डिस्पोज कर रहे थे वो? They took a big plastic bag, wrapped that person around completely and directly उसको डंप कर रहे थे. उसको या तो बरी कर रहे थे या जला रहे थे, whatever it is. Why were they doing that? Because the other people, the healthy people, should not come in contact with that person and get infected with COVID. Why will they get infected? Only because the dead body does have germs which can infect others. अगर उसमें germs नहीं होते तो infection का सवाल ही नहीं होता.
so the question, when you are cremating that body, the bacteria that are present in that body, they will also get burnt.
Yes, they
So
will.
does it mean that they will also die in terms of physical death and the soul will be released?
तो उनकी बॉडी का जो सोल होगा, that soul will get released when the body is dead. But let's assume, just for the sake of discussion, when the bacteria is, probably just for the sake of discussion, when the bacteria realizes कि okay यार इसको क्रिमेशन में डाल रहे हैं, अभी टेम्परेचर बढ़ना चालू हो जाएगा, let me run away. So when he runs away, he runs along with his body and his soul also runs away. So he will escape death. तो पॉइंट यह है कि जब बॉडी, ह्यूमन बॉडी फॉर दैट मैटर, डाई होती है तो उसके अंदर की जो बैक्टीरिया होती है, दैट बैक्टीरिया विल आल्सो डाई इफ द बॉडी इज बर्न्ड. एंड द बैक्टीरिया, इफ द बॉडी इज नॉट बर्न्ड, द बैक्टीरिया कैन सर्वाइव एंड देन प्रोबब्ली मूव आउट आल्सो. ये लोग जब बॉडी क्रीमेट करते हैं, दफना देते हैं लोग, राइट? So there is a good chance that the person, that bacteria may come out of the body and go and get, move into the soil also. ऐसा भी हो सकता है.
Okay.
Okay. Any other question? Shall we move on?
No, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Chalo. So let's chant verse number 26. अथ चैनम नित्य जातम
अथ चैनम नित्य जातम
नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतम
नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतम
तथापि त्वं महाबाहो
तथापि त्वं महाबाहो
नैवं शोचितुमर्हसि.
नैनं
नैवं शोचितुमर्हसि. नैवम
अर्हसि. नैवम. Okay.
प्रभु नैनम लिखा हुआ है ना प्रभु? नैनम.
Okay. Actually, थोड़ा इधर स्पेलिंग मिस्टेक है, but it is नैवम है.
Okay. नैवम है.
Both are correct. Naivam is also correct and Nainam is also correct. Na enam is the split of this one. Krishna has used both of them in different verses. Translation, anybody?
Yeah.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. If, however, you think that the soul or the symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reasons to lament, O mighty armed.
Jai. तो अभी क्या हुआ है इसमें? Anybody can anybody guess what is happening now? What is Krishna now driving as a point? And just guess.
I think that he's trying to get Arjuna to come out of any guilt feeling that he has, saying that you're not killing because whatever is going to come back in another form. So
which is correct. That is correct. But what logic is he using now to convince Arjuna from that or towards that point?
1 2 3 4 5 6  7  8  9  10  11  12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 22 23 24 25 26 27 28 29 30 31 32 33 34 35 36 37 38 39 40 41 42 43 44 45 46 47 48 49 50 51 52 53 54 55 56 57 58 59 60 61 62 63 64 65 66 67 68 69 70 71 72 73 74 75 76 77 78 79 80 81 82 83 84 85 86 87 88 89 90 91 92 93 94 95 96 97 98 99 100 101 102 103 104 105 106 107 108 109 110 111 112 113 114 115 116 117 118 119 120 121 122 123 124 125 126 127 128 129 130 131 132 133 134 135 136 137 138 139 140 141 142 143 144 145 146 147 148 149 150 151 152 153 154 155 156 1
Krishna is saying, Prabhu, because soul will be always born and die forever. So it will be always there. So it is not, he should not be lamenting. It's only body who dies and bones and finishes.
नहीं
Soul
प्रभु,
is always there.
Prabhu, in this verse I am asking, in this verse, what is it trying to communicate as a point, as an argument to convince Arjun? यहाँ पे बॉडी का तो उसने कुछ बात ही नहीं किया अभी तक. Any try? Do you want to give? थोड़ा सोचो, थोड़ा ट्रांसलेशन पढ़ो एक बार, and then just think about it. Anything? नहीं? Okay. So look at the translation. What he is saying, if, however, atha cha enam, if, however, what does this mean? It marks the start of a new argument. Abhi tak what Krishna had done, he had spoken with the basis of soul is being eternal. Correct? Soul cannot be cut to pieces, soul cannot be burnt, non-changeable, eternal, immutable, always is there. There is no birth, no death, no start, no beginning, right? Changes from one body to another, right? That way he had mentioned the characteristics of a soul. And then he concluded all of this to tell Arjun that do not lament. Now he is saying, look at the other possibility. Okay, so what are the different possibilities? Okay, from the perspective of body and soul, if you apply both permutation combinations, what will happen? A body can be considered as eternal, or a body can be considered as taking birth and dying, yeah, getting destroyed. Then the third possibility is soul can be considered eternal, or soul can be considered destructible, right? Now let's rule out one possibility at a time. Soul being eternal, Krishna has already explained from verse number 11 till verse number 25. 15 verses already spoken about it. Body, Arjun very well knows, body is not eternal. He himself says, Nareke niyatam vaso. So which means after this birth, after this body, he will have to go and reside in hell. He has seen people dying and people getting burned, cremated. Yeah. So body being eternal is not at all an option. Arjun is not somebody who has taken birth yesterday who doesn't know about it. Arjun knows very well about birth and death and the body getting destroyed. So that option is also ruled out. And body dying is have also been talked about by Krishna already. Correct? Nasato vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate satah. The body cannot endure time. It gets destroyed and it gets recreated. So three possibilities have been spoken about. Now, what is the fourth possibility remaining? That a soul can take birth and die. Right? So Krishna is now explaining from that perspective now. And he is not saying that it happens that way. Because what happens is soul is eternal. The soul is not destructible. But still, Krishna is saying, still, if somebody wants to think that way, if, however, you think that the soul will always be born and die forever, meaning the birth and death cycle of the soul will be similar to that of a body. If you think that way, still you have no reason to lament. Amazing, isn't it? So now, what is he actually now communicating? Now he is saying that if you reject the soul, still there is no cause of lamentation. If you accept a soul and accept its birth and cycle of birth and death, still there is no cause of lamentation. And if you consider the soul as eternal, still there is no cause of lamentation. Okay, the body is also taking birth and dies. Still there is no cause of lamentation. The body is not eternal, so again you cannot lament on it. So now, meaning so far Krishna has spoken from a philosophy perspective. Now he is talking from a logic perspective, the view that generally worldly people have. Yeah, that is what he is now speaking now. Now, in the purport, Prabhupada has talked about certain kind of philosophies. We will not go deeper into it because it's just beyond the subject matter and the context also. But just to understand that there existed various philosophies previously also. Okay, the names could be different, there could be minor pluses and minus here and there, but we just need to understand what kind of philosophies existed over a period of time. Okay, and it's not necessary that they all have to exist at that time. They could have existed previously, they could have existed later. We just need to understand these philosophies to understand how, what drawbacks they have, and how Bhagavad Gita explains all of these philosophies. So what do so there is a philosophy of Buddhists. What do Buddhists think? They think that the body and the soul is same. There is no separate existence of a soul and the body, of a soul than the body. Then there is another philosophy called as Loka Yatika and Vaibhashik. Okay. They think that the material combination of elements, when they are in a mature state, then the life symptoms are created. So they don't believe the existence of a soul at an eternal level. Okay. So then that is another type of philosopher, meaning the materialistic people who think that the physical elements, like, various chemical elements that exist in on Earth today, they, they think that body is a combination of all of these chemicals. And they think that these physical and chemical elements, when they interact with each other, then life symptoms develop. Now, the point of problem of this philosophy is, uh, if you calculate the composition of all of these chemical or physical elements and apply a market price to that, let's say I have 1 ml of hydrochloric acid, 1 ml of some kind of alkali, some cc of gas or something like that. All of these put together, let's say when you apply the quantity and multiply with the rate that is applicable today, let's say the body value of all of these chemicals come to say 1000 dirhams. Now, if my body is just a combination of all of these chemicals, let's say if somebody says, okay, Sachin, I'll give you 10,000 dirhams, 10 times the value of your chemicals. Give your body to me. Will I agree to it? So this logic actually doesn't make sense, that the body is just a chemical combination. Yeah. Today, the science has not been able to prove the existence of mind, because it is subtle beyond the five gross senses. But still, they believe in the existence of mind. Now, where does this mind get generated from? Mind is subtle, right? If it has no physical element associated with it. So then in which combination of physical and chemical element did the mind get generated from? So there are so many such questions which today are not answerable to anybody, and which can be answered only by Shastra. So now all of these philosophies, they have their own misconception. We'll not go into deeper of them, but you just need to understand that the perfect knowledge cannot be understood from somebody who is not perfect. Okay, what does this mean? Let's say, okay, as per the Shastra, there are 4 defects of a human being. दीपक प्रभु पता है आपको कौन से हैं? ये अपने प्रभु आपके नाम भूल गया मैं, भव्या के डैडी का नाम क्या है? He would have
हंस
spoken
गोकुल
about it.
प्रभु जी।
Hamsa Gokul Prabhu. He would have spoken about it before. So one of the defects is we have imperfect senses.
Senses. Yeah, Prabhu.
Yeah. Another second defect is we have a propensity to cheat others. Others or even ourselves also we cheat. Then we have a tendency to get under illusion. And और एक fourth है which I forgot now. तो ये जो imperfect senses होते हैं ना हमारे, so we try to understand the world out of our imperfect senses. Why imperfect? Because it cannot.
Illusion, Prabhu. Is it the fourth one? Is illusion?
Illusion एक है, cheating propensity, imperfect senses है, और fourth one I'm not able to remember. So let's take the example of eyes also, right? We cannot see something which is beyond a certain distance. We cannot see something which is beyond an opaque object. Who is seated in the next room in our house? We don't know that. Our eyes can't see that. So something which our eyes can't see, which is just within 5 to 10 meters of our distance, how can the eyes see something which is billions of kilometers away? So we cannot hear properly the voices which are there thousands of kilometers away. We cannot see that. Our senses are not designed for them, for such kind of distances. They are not perfect. So when you do not have perfect senses, how can you understand some matter which is beyond the capability of these senses? That is why it is called as one should learn about God using Shastra Chakshu. Chakshu meaning eyes, Shastra scriptures. We should learn from the eyes of the scriptures about somebody who is beyond the meaning, the beyond the boundaries of the physical senses. So ये जो सारे जो philosophies which have been come up, various people have come up with these philosophies. They themselves have imperfect senses. How can they teach you something which is beyond the capability of their senses? So that is why we have to rely upon scriptures which have come down from God himself or a representative of God. So इसके लिए these philosophies will not lead you to a perfect stage and unless and until they are based on some shastra. Okay. So now, how does this verse help Arjun to understand the thought? So, if you consider matter or the body as primary, or you consider that soul does not exist, he's saying still there is no need for lamentation. If you consider matter as made up of chemicals, still there is no lamentation because for the loss of chemicals. If there is no rebirth, then there is no fear of sinful reactions. And hence, again, no need for lamentation. So, from various perspectives, he is addressing Arjuna's query. Okay. So we will go to the next verse now. Any question around this one?
वो जो शास्त्र है ये भी तो ह्यूमन ने ही लिखे हैं प्रभु, राइट?
Okay. वो प्रभु, just one moment. Prabhu. So the Shastra have not been written by a human being. So when we say written, the written word has multiple meanings, One
I
is
mean to say प्रभु interpreted like जैसे भी expansion जो purports हैं ये भी तो is done by human based on their own understandings on or knowledge or own faith, right, Prabhu?
correct. Very, very valid point. Very good question, Prabhu. Prabhu, let us look at it in this way. let us first look at the word meaning of the word writing. So let's say you tell me to write ABCD, I write ABCD. Okay, and that is also writing. And you tell me to write something about alphabets, I apply my own brain and I write ABCD. That is also writing, right? Now, when the instructions come from the Lord, okay, the people who represent the Lord, they do not adulterate the instruction, which means they do not add anything of their own in that instruction. So it flows down as it is from the source of the knowledge. So that is one. Secondly, majority of our shastras have been uh, compiled by Vyasdev, and it came into the written form with via Ganpati. Right? We all know that story, right? So Ganpati was instructed and requested to write this down, and he obeyed the orders of Brahma, and it came into the written form, especially for people in Kali Yuga. Now we can say that Ganpati has also written it, but Ganpati just took verbal instructions or whatever the sentences that were supposed to be written from by Vyasdev, he took it and he put it up in a written form. So that way we can say that he has done a clerical job. Just the dictation was given by somebody and he has put it up in a written form. But the compilation of that was done by Vyasdev. Now the question can come up. That means Vyasdev was the brain behind it and not someone else. Yeah. If we consider both the possibilities, yes as well as no. So if we take yes, okay, then who is Vyasdev? We have to understand that. Agree? So let's look at what Bhagavatam says about Vyasdev. You have seen this, Prabhu, right? Krishna is the source
Yes,
of all
Prabhu. Yes.
incarnations.
Yeah.
Okay. So this particular chapter, it's the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, third chapter. Suta Goswami is talking about the various incarnations of Krishna or Vishnu, however we refer to him. He is saying thereafter, in the 17th incarnation of Godhead, Sri Vyasadev appeared in the womb of Satyavati through Parashara Muni. So, Vyasadev is also an avatar of Krishna. So, he is not somebody, an ordinary person, to write any kind of something which does not make sense. So he is also somebody whose knowledge has come from the Lord himself, because he is an incarnation of the Lord himself. And if we consider the Vyasdev as not an incarnation, let's say for the discussion's sake, still it is not a problem, because Vyasdev's guru is Narad Muni. Narad Muni's guru is Brahma, and Brahma's guru is Lord Krishna himself. That also we will know from Srimad Bhagavatam. So when the people go beyond any kind of materialistic pleasures, any sense pleasures, who are the sadhus like Vyasdev, they do not have any self-interest in modifying the word of God. See, आपने मुझे कुछ कहा लिखने के लिए, तो I have two possibilities or three possibilities. I can reject your instruction, which saintly people do not do because they are representatives of the Lord. I can modify your instruction. Why? But why will I modify? Because I have some self-interest in that. या तो मुझे अपना दिखाना है कुछ, या तो I feel what you have said is wrong, या तो I will feel what I know is better than you, right? But there is some self-interest around it. So I will modify. Or because I do not have any self-interest, and because I am a pure representative, आपने जो कहा है exactly मैं वैसे करूँगा. Because of that, I will not modify any of your instruction. I will put down the instruction exactly 100% in the manner you expected, which is what people like Vyasdev do. So ये जो है दिखने में it could be a person different from Krishna, but they represent spiritually, they represent Krishna themselves. And now when it comes to the final question, अभी प्रभुपाद का पूछते हैं, तो प्रभुपाद also is in the line of parampara, 32nd disciple in the line of parampara starting from Krishna. So you have seen, right, पूरे भगवत गीता में there is one place, यहाँ पे लिखा है,
बिगिनिंग में होता है प्रभु,
क्या नहीं हो रहा है?
बिगिनिंग में है ना प्रभु,
हाँ
डिसाइपलिक
बिगिनिंग में है,
चल रहा है।
कहाँ पे है मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा है।
वो हार्ड कॉपी में तो है प्रभु,
हाँ
शुरू
हार्ड
में।
कॉपी में है, डेफिनेटली है।
इसमें नहीं है प्रभु, बिकॉज
इसमें नहीं होगा।
स्टार्टिंग नहीं, इसमें नहीं होगा।
Okay, but hard copy
copy
में है,
में।
you are right, you are right. So the complete parampara has been listed over there. So these people, they do not have any self-interest in modifying the instruction. That is what Prabhupada writes these three important words as it is, without any uh, kind of modification of the instruction. और प्रभु अभी तो मीनिंग वी आर क्वाइट इन द बिगिनिंग स्टेजेस, बट जब जैसे आप भगवत गीता और डिटेल में पढ़ोगे, समझ जाओगे ना, तो देन वन डे ना you should try and read some of the translations of some other authors of Bhagavad Gita. तब आपको पता चलेगा कि इस भगवद गीता में और उस भगवद गीता में क्या डिफरेंस है। तो हम लोग ने ट्राई किया था ऐसे सम वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट वर्सेस जो थे उसका ट्रांसलेशन हम लोग ने कंपेयर किया था, तो वी कुड सी द डिफरेंस, वेरी मच विजिबल डिफरेंस दिखा था।
सही है प्रभु, बचपन में तो पहले गीता प्रेस गोरखपुर का वही आता था गीता, राइट?
करेक्ट करेक्ट,
पहले तो वही चलता था हर जगह।
बराबर।
वो कर्म किए जाओ, ऐसा फल की चिंता मत कर, ऐसा ही जनरली लिखा रहता था।
करेक्ट। Actually, Gita Press has done a very good work for Hindu society by distributing Gita and so many different scriptures and books and all that वगैरह. But वही होता है कि you can take the support of such people and walk a little distance, but you cannot reach the ultimate aim using people who are not in the parampara. तो इसके लिए आपको जब ओके गुड बेटर और एक्सेलेंट में अगर कंपेयर करना रहेगा तो हाँ इट इज बेटर देन नॉट रीडिंग एट ऑल, बट एक्सेलेंट इज टू रीड व्हाट इज देयर इन द परंपरा। हरे कृष्णा। So let's move on to verse number 27. जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युर्,
जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युर्,
ध्रुवं
जन्म मृतस्य च,
ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य
च,
तस्माद् परिहार्येथे,
तस्माद्
अपरिहार्ये अर्थे,
न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि,
त्वं शोचितुम् अर्हसि।
Translation.
One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament.
Okay, now why is he saying all of this? To again emphasize the destructibility of the body, and if, as per the previous verse, if the probability of soul not being eternal is assumed to be true, then in the case of soul also, the birth and death cycle is true. So for both the possibilities, he is now speaking about this particular verse now. So what according to you is birth and what according to you is death? बर्थ किसको बोलेंगे एंड डेथ किसको बोलेंगे आप?
Birth is
बच्चा,
yes.
चलिए माता, बोलिए माता।
नहीं दीपक प्रभु जी बोलिए आप।
थैंक यू माता। तो बर्थ जैसे प्रभु बच्चा पैदा होता है, दैट इज अ बर्थ, ही कम आउट ऑफ द वूम ऑफ द मदर, एंड व्हेन फाइनली बॉडी dies, when we say कि somebody has left body has no sensation, then it is death. लेकिन अब अंडरस्टैंडिंग होने के बाद soul enters body, it takes a birth, then soul when it leaves, then it is death.
Correct. Very nice. Very nice. So when the soul attains or contacts a material body, we call it as a birth, and when it leaves, it is death. Very nice. Very nice. So what he is saying is basically somebody coming in and somebody going out, you call that as birth and death. तो उसमें lament क्या करना है? So um, let's assume there is a fly, okay, and there is a community. सब villa बैठे हैं यहाँ पे, 700 villas are there. The fly comes in every house, enters, remains there for some time, goes out and goes in some other villa, again remains there for some time, again goes out. So उसमें दुख करने जैसी क्या बात है? It's just the entry and exit of something. That something never existed before it entered, and that something will not exist after a while, after the soul has left the body. तो उसमें क्या रोने का? That is what he is now talking about. So to understand these words, it is important to understand how we define birth and death. Now, when birth and death is understood, then we also understand the certainty behind the death after birth and birth after death. So that's why Krishna is saying that there is nothing to lament about. Naivam shochitumarhasi, nainam shochitumarhasi, natvam shochitumarhasi, nanu shochitumarhasi. All variations, they mean just one thing: do not lament. So it is to emphasize upon Arjun that you are a Kshatriya, you do not deserve to lament. You should not lament. Now let's look at how these two verses 26, 27, they are like, a checkmate for Arjun. Checkmate meaning what? Whichever possibility you think upon, you will not have an answer which will defeat the argument of Krishna. Okay, so let's look at the checkmate aspect. Okay, so first what Krishna did, he explained the soul's eternality. Now he is giving his arguments based on the principles by other philosophers like Buddhism or atheism or other kind of stuff. So now the first probability is, if the warriors, okay, the relatives, friends, and everybody on the battlefield, if they are eternal souls and they are not the body, that means they will not die on the battlefield. The soul cannot be die. The soul cannot die. So that is possibility one. If the soul does not exist in the body and the body is just matter, okay, then also body will get destroyed anyway, whether you fight and kill them or you do not fight and they die their natural death or they are killed by somebody else. So soul not existing in the body and only body existing, that also does not deserve any lamentation. Okay. And if the soul does not exist and whatever is there in the body, which is what we call as life, if it's a matter of chemical combinations, physical elements, chemical elements coming together, still it is not a cause of lamentation, because what is getting destroyed is only loss of chemicals. What is so much to lament about it? Then body is not eternal. So you cannot lament on it. Anyway, it is going to die. And body getting died, okay, is a matter of fact. So again, there you cannot lament about it. So if you cannot kind of accept that the soul does not exist, then people like Bhishma and Dronacharya will be destroyed at death anyway. You should not give up your duty of fighting in this case. So look at all the possibilities that he has talked about. And in none of the possibilities, Krishna says, yeah, in this case, maybe it deserves lamentation. Nothing. For all the possibilities, it is like Arjuna has no reason to lament, but he has to continue fighting, do his duty and fight, which is like a checkmate for Arjuna. Now, this point about this phrase, there is one word used here, apariharyarthe, meaning it is inevitable, wherein you are completely helpless when that thing happens. It is going to happen come what may. You do whatever you want to try to do from your side. Okay, but you cannot avoid it. It is inevitable. It will happen. Apariharyarthe. No one can stop this change from happening. And what is that change? Jatasya hi dhruva mrityur. Whoever is born will die. And dhruvam janma mritasya cha. And the another fact is whoever dies will take birth again. This is a matter of fact. Now, can you tell me why this knowledge of inevitable death and how does this knowledge of inevitable death help you spiritually? Now we have reached almost the end of the answer to the first question. Right? Three more verses and we'll be done with this section. Can you tell me how does this knowledge help you grow spiritually? Anybody?
Maybe the attachment, uh, that we are having to the I don't know, maybe the family or you to your loved ones. Uh, even if they are not well or whatever, even if they are gone, uh, you shouldn't feel bad because they have lived their life, and it's not that they have only left the physical body and they will be born again.
Correct, correct. Yeah, good, nice, very nice. Anything from your side, Deepak Prabhuji?
So, Prabhu, the way I understand is this is not a one life or one death scenario. We are on a journey, and which is journey is from multiple. There are multiple births and multiple deaths. And ultimate journey is to reach to back to Godhead, and we are on that path.
Correct.
So the purpose of life is to raise that level of consciousness where we can ultimately progress in our life by understanding this truth of journey.
Yes. Very good. Very beautiful answers. So what happens is, um, speaking about death is actually a no-no kind of topic in our society. So we consider it to be, yeah, don't talk negatively. Why to talk about something which we don't like? So speaking about death is like a taboo, not to talk about it. So what happens is we basically live in some kind of a denial mode, meaning we see people dying, but we think we will not die. And we think that this is something which can happen to only others, not to us. When in Mahabharata, that incident where Yaksha asks Yudhishthir, sorry, a few questions. So one of the question, what is the most surprising thing in this world? Yudhishthir answers that everywhere, in every village, every town, people die, but everybody thinks that they will not die. That is the most surprising thing. So we think that this is something which is not for me, it is for others. But what happens is when sometime one of our loved ones or relatives or somebody or friend or somebody, if they die unexpectedly, then the the probability that we were thinking about that it will not happen to us gets impacted. So then for a few days, then we become a bit serious towards life. But after a few days, uh, we again come back to normal and we again get into the same illusion that this is not for me, it is for somebody else. And we forget about the inevitable death. Again, we get engrossed in the bodily pleasures and we think that this is what life is. This is what life is meant for. But every moment that we are living in, there is a quota of the breaths that we inhale, exhale. They start reducing gradually over a period, and inch by inch, we are moving closer to death. So we have to be very cautious about why have we born? What is the purpose of life? Okay. What are we supposed to do before we reach death? And when we understand that this is my objective, then we have to question, are we working towards the objective? And if I am able to achieve the objective, if I want to achieve the objective, what am I supposed to do? Also, we need to understand that the death as a kind of a event, it's not an event that terminates everything. It is a kind of a suspension for some time, for a while, until we get another body, and then the journey continues. It is an ongoing process, and but it's an unavoidable process. So that's why we have to prepare for death, to ensure that our new beginning is not impacted by the incorrect actions that we perform in this life. So one has to prepare for death properly. And the whole of 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita will talk only about it. Okay, so people may view at death negatively, but actually from a perspective of Bhagavad Gita, it is a positive because it's a new beginning. The end of the current body is anyway going to happen. So why not end it in a positive manner so that the new body is also in a positive manner, we can accept it, and it also gives us better benefit from the new body compared to the current body. So the gravity is of the presence of this body is better understood when we understand death. So to understand what happens after death, during death, that actually helps us understanding in terms of the utilization of the current body. Okay. So we have finished 2 verses here. I think we can stop here now, because next week maybe more people will join, and we can do 28, 29, and 30. So 28, 29, 30 will mark the end of Krishna's answer to Arjuna's first question, compassion towards material body. Okay,
Right,
any question around whatever we covered, or even general also?
Just one question I have. When does the soul actually enter the body? After while the child is about to be born, or some say that it's already the moment the child is conceived, it gets a soul.
Okay, let's look at what Shastra says. So this is again from Srimad Bhagavatam. Kapil Muni is an incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Okay, Kapil Muni was the son of Kardama Muni and Devahuti. You might have heard these names. So Kardama Muni left for forest for tapasya after Kapil Muni became 16 years of age. So he gave Devahuti under the care of Kapil Muni, and then he left for forest. So after that, Devahuti became very much inclined towards obtaining spiritual knowledge. And then after Kardama Muni left, like you can look at this one, the renunciation of Kardama Muni. So he leaves for forest at this point of time. And in chapter 25 until chapter 33, Devahuti asks quite a few questions to Kapil Muni. And Kapil Muni imparts huge amount of knowledge to her, summary of which is mentioned in these 8-9 chapters. One of the questions she asks and Kapil Muni answers is this one: Lord Kapila's instructions on the movements of living entities. Okay, I'll post this particular link in our group. So please go through it. Even if you can't read the full chapter, all the purports together, at least read the translations. Then you will understand the depth of which these instructions have been given. Okay, so let's read just first few verses, then you will understand the topic. Under the supervision of the Supreme Lord, uh, and according to the result of his work. That means two or three factors are there. The karma of the living entity, the soul, is made to enter the into the womb of a woman through the particle of male semen to assume a particular type of body. So it talks about what is the basis in on which a soul enters into the body of a mother. So there are two factors. You can divide that into 1, 2A and 2B. The first is the supervision of the Supreme Lord. The second is according to the result of his work, that is 2A, and there is an additional factor of desire, that is 2B. So based on these factors, the which body, when, how, and in what environment that soul will enter, all this is decided, and then the soul enters. So now look at the timeline. On the first night, the sperm and ovum mix, and on the fifth night, the mixture ferments into a bubble. On the 10th night, it develops into a form like a plum, and after that, it gradually turns into a lump of flesh or an egg. Okay. So now all of this is happening only after the soul is made to enter into the womb of a woman. So this answers your question that on the first night itself, this happens. Okay, then he goes on to describe in the course of a month, a head is formed, and at the end of 2 months, the hands, feet, and other limbs take shape. By the end of 3 months, nails, fingers, toes, body, hair, bones, skin appear, as do the organs of generation and other apertures in the body, namely eyes, nostrils, ear, mouth, and all. And then it goes on. Fourth month में क्या होता है? Then fifth month, 6th month में क्या होता है? That is mentioned. Okay. Then what is the stage of that uh, fetus inside? What is it thinking of at that point of time? That also is mentioned over there. Science has reached to an extent where it can see in the womb of the mother how the baby is doing, but science cannot find out what is the baby thinking of at that point of time. That is can be only known by someone who created body or created all of this, which is the Lord himself. And the Lord himself is talking about what that baby is thinking in the womb of the mother. So just read all of this, meaning if possible. Yeah, it is it's excellent.
Sure, we'll do that.
I'll post this link to the group. Go through it. It will explain your and answer your question.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. So
Hare
let's
Krishna.
meet
Hare Krishna,
next
Prabhu.
week. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare